Hi everyone. Let's go on to the next lesson in your curriculum, which is India's foreign policy. Today's session, we're going to discuss what was the stance of India while on one side Cold War was going on, and on the other side, we had just gained our independence a few years ago. So we're going to discuss India's foreign policy in light of all these events. Okay. And by all these events, I mean two prominent events for India. Number one, its own independence. And number two, the Cold War situation around the world. Now, see, while I was teaching you Cold War, I already told you that India decided not to align with any country, any bloc rather. Okay, the Western bloc, the Eastern bloc, none of them. Okay, India was rather neutral in its stand. Okay, and there were, a few reasons why India was like that. That is what we are going to evaluate today. It is said that Jawaharlal Nehru was the main, what do we say, the main mind behind India's foreign policy in the next few years. So he worked as a prime minister as well as a foreign minister as well during those time. So yeah, it was basically Nehru who devised all these strategies and policies during the initial years of independence. Okay. Repeating it again, India's stand during Cold War was neutral. India said that we are not going to side with any nation, and that is what led to the formation that is why we had this non-aligned movement. Okay, where India plus other third world countries, other four other third world countries, they signed the non-aligned movement, and we've already discussed which countries were there in the session of Cold War, so we don't need to delve into it once again. Okay, so they signed the non-aligned movement and decided that, okay, now we're not going to align with any other country. Today, we are going to evaluate how does non-aligned movement flourish in today's world, or does it flourish or it does not. That's what we are going to see in today's session. And we're also going to talk about one more important agreement that India signed, and that was Panchsheel. Okay, that India signed, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru signed with the Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai. Okay, so that is what we are going to discuss about in today's session. Going ahead, see, why did India take this stand for a neutral, being neutral and not aligning with any other country? Because India, or let's say all these Commonwealth nations or third world countries, they were suffering economically. Okay, as a result of the World War. Now, how was India impacted because of the World War? We all know that Indian troops were also sent to fight the World War because we were a colony of United Kingdom, yeah, Britain then. So our troops were also sent to fight the World War. So basically, India was also impacted because of that thing. Okay, and the continuous drain of resources or wealth, as Dadabhai Naroji puts it, also resulted into the economic condition of India during that time. So all this coupled with a few more other factors, the persisting conditions of the world at that time, okay, and decline in India's GDP, it made India focus first on itself and its economic development. And same was the situation with Egypt. Same was the situation in the other African nations. That they because they were colonized, so they now needed to prioritize their own, their own country, their own economy more than any other thing. So that was one reason why none of them aligned. Another reason was need for peace. Jawaharlal Nehru has always said that whether it comes to nuclear weapons, we don't, go ahead first. No first use policy is what we have always propagated. And we have never acted as aggressors. I think that was the primary reason. And, this idea of need for peace was the primary reason why India had, faced such a huge loss in Sino-India War of 1962. So Jawaharlal Nehru always said that after 47, we've already fought a lot of wars now. World War, freedom struggle, we've fought a lot of wars. Now what we want is peace for some time. And that's what he propagated. That, okay, now is the time for some peace and let's work for that. So their main idea was the need for peace, due to which they did not want to align with any bloc, because alignment with either US or USSR would have resulted into a lot of disruption in the Indian economy, a lot of, non-peaceful acts in the entire, because you saw Vietnam, they jumped in, okay, and they started to fight. Korea, these parts jumped in. So we did not want the same thing to happen with us, okay. So this is what Nehru made it pretty clear. All right. Coming to Panchsheel, please, all those who did not listen to me clearly, please note it down. Panchsheel was signed between Jawaharlal Nehru Premier Zhao, sometime also written as Chow, and Lai. Okay. So among these people, these two people, Zhao and Lai, China. Panchsheel agreement was signed. Okay. And Panchsheel, it majorly aimed at 5, like Panchsheel already means, Panch means 5. So Panchsheel aimed at 5 important principles. Number 1, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Now, what does this mean? The word sovereign, it means that a country is free to take its own decisions, to make its own decisions, and it is not going to be influenced by any other nation. No other nation can influence in the internal affairs of the country. Number 1, okay, sovereignty. So it was decided that both the countries, or any country which is accepting the principles of Panchsheel, they are not going to interfere in each other's matters. Okay, territorial integrity. They are going to respect the boundaries of both the nations, and they are not going to blur these boundaries. Okay, number 1. Number 2, mutual non-aggression. Mutual non-aggression means that no party is going to act as an aggressive party towards the other nation. So whoever is signing the Panchsheel, these two parties, they are not going to attack each other. Okay, they are going to be non-aggressive parties. They cannot attack each other, and this was mutually decided. Okay. Number 3, non-interference. I think this is pretty clear from this point only. Accepting their sovereignty. Okay. Equality and mutual benefit. So whatever they work for, it's going to result in equal gains for both the parties. Okay. It's not gonna be unequal, whether you come into a pact, whether you sign a treaty, the benefit should be equal. And overall, they aimed at peaceful coexistence. These were the 5 principles, the Panchsheel principles, that were signed between India and China. All right? Zhao Enlai and Jawaharlal Nehru. Now let's go ahead and discuss a little more on these principles. The first conference where these principles were discussed, the Bandung Conference, organized by the Indonesian President Sukarno. So in the year 1955, Indonesian President Sukarno, he organized the Bandung Conference. Okay. Here, there were 29 Asian and African nations who came together, and they agreed upon the Panchsheel principles. Okay. They decided that, yes, we are going to stick to the Panchsheel principles. One of these, of course, nations was Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh. Vietnam. He was the ruler from the communist side of Vietnam, okay, Viet Cong. And he also said that he also gave agreement to the Panchsheel principles, and this all happened in the Bandung Conference. Bandung Conference also becomes important because it laid the foundations of NAM. Okay. Then you had the Belgrade Conference. Here, foundation for NAM had been laid. Next, you had the Belgrade Conference. And this Belgrade Conference is said to be the first summit of NAM. All right? The first summit of NAM, where discussions on NAM were held. Further deliberations were done, and basically official formation of NAM was laid down. Founding fathers of this NAM was Jawaharlal Nehru, India, President Tito of Yugoslavia, and President Narsee, of Egypt. Okay, these were the founding fathers of NAM, and they laid a 27-point declaration on the same in this conference. Okay, so this is what was going on. Basically, things started from Panchsheel. Panchsheel was adhered to by few other nations. This few other nations they were discussing, and then simultaneously in those discussions was talked about NAM, and then NAM came into existence. Okay, this is pretty much what we are talking about. Now, why NAM? Why non-aligned movement? See, why non-aligned, or let's say even why Panchsheel? There were a lot of reasons. First was that we don't want colonial world to persist anymore. With moving times, with developing times, we have seen a lot of imperialism and colonialism all around the world. So we don't want that anymore. Okay, so the first task was that if we don't want any imperialism and colonialism, we have to be self-sufficient, we have to be stable. And that is why their idea was that, their idea was the coming up of Panchsheel or NAM, and they basically aimed at abolition of imperialism and colonialism. Then, of course, they wanted internal peace, which is why NAM came into existence. NAM and Panchsheel. Last point itself says peaceful coexistence. Next, disarmament. Now, this was a very important, if you remember, I talked to you about it because of this, because of the nuclear capabilities of Russia, of USSR and US, and then, moving ahead, you will see that Western nations, whether other Western countries are also moving ahead towards this thing, nuclear capabilities. So the world was in fear of any other nuclear attack. Okay, we've already seen what happened with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So we don't want the same thing to happen with any of us. Therefore, we worked towards disarmament. We wanted that, people around the world, they are not arming themselves with nuclear weapons and posing a threat to other powers around the world. So we aimed towards disarmament. Okay. Next, new international economic order. Now, these Asian and African powers, they said that the persisting economic order is much in favor of the Western countries. It's an unequal thing that goes on. So we don't want this. We want something which is in favor of the entire world. They did not say that it's in favor of the Asian countries or the African countries. They said we wanted an equal economic order which favors the entire world. Okay. And then, of course, they wanted to enforce the human rights because wars saw a lot of violation of these human rights. So they wanted to enforce the human rights around the world as well. Okay, so that, people are, of course, avoiding wars, and they are more and more considerate about the situation that's going on. Okay, they are more and more considerate about the present condition of the world, which cannot delve into any other world. I'm talking about the year 1955, or let's say, the 1950s altogether. Cold War was going on. We could already see how Russia and, US are at the neck of each other. So people were fearing that maybe a third world war breaks out. So it was very important to make the world realize the present situation, that the world cannot deal with a third war. Okay, which is why, of course, we wanted an enforcement of the human rights. Okay, so now see, when we talk about Panchsheel, or when we talk about NAM, when we talk about Panchsheel or when we talk about NAM, if you look at the present condition, we won't see, at least, let's first discuss about NAM. We don't see a future for NAM. Why? Number one, NAM was formed as no alignment with either blocks. But what after Cold War? Cold War ended. There are no blocks now. So who are you going to align with, and who are you not going to align with? That remains a question. So NAM did not have any future right now. Okay, Right now, we could not see that, we actually needed NAM for anything. Number one, okay? See, we already saw that Russian economy was depleting, and Russia and America, they practically started working together, cooperating with each other. So there were no military blocks. There were, even the big powers were working towards disarmament. Okay, so NAM actually lost its political relevance. Okay, but if you talk about the present situation, the only purpose NAM is fulfilling right now is economic justice. Whenever the world is faced with inequality, NAM comes into play practically for Asian and African nations. So right now NAM is working as something which can deliver economic justice to people. That's it. Okay. A number of small and weak states which are unable to, what do we say? They're not able to fight the big powers which are trying to, influence them. Okay, they're not able to preserve their sovereignty because there are these international organizations like the World Bank interfering in their thing. So see, I told you, like, I've discussed this a lot of times in the CUET lectures, that whenever IMF or World Bank, they are going ahead, especially IMF, when they give loans to countries, they actually put conditions, like to Sri Lanka or to Pakistan or to India. Even during 1991, India said that we are practicing Fabian socialism. Fabian socialism was practically what? Marxism plus Gandhism. Mrs. Gandhi said that we have our own form of socialism. So this particular socialism was abolished in the year 1991. LPG reforms, interference of IMF. This form of socialism was practically non-existent during this time. So these organizations, they try to interfere in the politics of a country. Okay, so for their protection, NAM persists. Then NAM, even, if America starts with a domination around the world, NAM can be an active participant to prevent America's domination. Okay, and of course, it could work for its original goals also, of disarmament, of peaceful coexistence, okay, development of small states. All those things NAM can, of course, work towards. Talking about Panchsheel, Panchsheel, of course, had been criticized also previously on a lot of grounds. Okay, people said that the 5 pointers of Panchsheel, they are very similar to the pointers in the League of Nations also. So what's so new in Panchsheel? League of Nations was a failure, and probably Panchsheel is also going to be a failure in some way or the other. So they criticized Panchsheel. One way or the other, they said that Panchsheel is not really useful, and there is no way the world needs Panchsheel right now. Okay? And another very prominent factor was that people said that Panchsheel is actually favoring the aggressor China. Okay? China, if you saw the scenario then, China was developing. Day by day, it was moving towards a better situation. So people were saying that China is already a communist. And if you remember during Cold War lecture also, I told you that China was actually sticking to the old form of communism. While Russia had reformed its communism, China was sticking to its old form of communism. And which is why, since China was sticking to its old form of communism, since Russia had reformed its communism, China moved away from Russia because it felt that Russia's communism, it had altered what Lenin said or what Marx said. Russia had taken a more friendly turn, at least in the later stages. Whereas China wanted to be very rigid with these two people. So we saw a split between them. Okay? Soviet and Sino-Soviet split. So therefore, people were thinking that China is now trying to advance in the Asian nation and try to become another dominant, trying to replace Russia as a dominant power in that area. Okay, so that's one more thing. Um, Another thing, people said that Panchsheel was actually an appeasement of communist China when Tibet came into being. Okay, so basically, China wanted to protect its right in Tibet. The situation of Tibet we will discuss in a little while when we are talking about the Sino-India War of 1965. Sorry, 1962. Okay, so people said that okay, now China is trying to protect itself using this Panchsheel, and they also said that Panchsheel is actually vague, it's unrealistic, and you cannot work. It's you cannot, I mean, meet mutual non-aggression, peaceful coexistence. You cannot work with this concept of Panchsheel. Okay, they actually compared Panchsheel to the Holy Alliance of 1815 and the Kellogg-Briand Pact of 1928. They said that as impractical were these things, so is Panchsheel. You cannot aim for the peaceful world, a utopian world. You cannot look towards it. So this is what people were criticizing Panchsheel for, and they had their own reason to criticize Panchsheel. Okay. Even Prime Minister Nehru, he was oh, skeptical about Panchsheel. Sorry. He was skeptical about Panchsheel. How long? See, although Prime Minister Nehru, he had made it a point and we saw that he adhered to the principle of Panchsheel for a very long time. But indeed, he was still skeptical about Panchsheel because he did not believe um, China so much so. Okay, but I would not say he completely disbelieved also. That is one thing that resulted into the of course 1962 Sino-India War. Okay, and another factor why Nehru could not believe was a communist government in China. Stalled in 1949. So, of course, there were a lot of factors why Panchsheel was not actually a good idea. Signing it with China was the worst idea anybody could do. Anyway, so that was Nam and Panchsheel. Much and much, well, I mean, the gist of all that you need to know about. See, when you all are trying to write the answers, since it's specifically ISC oriented, when you all are trying to write the answer, it's not important that you include this or this. You should try to understand the situation. The third world countries were no more in a situation where they could fight with the first world or second world countries or fight for the first or second world countries. They a havoc had been wreaked upon them in the past few decades. So now their main aim was that after they have newly gained their independence, their main aim was peaceful coexistence for some time. Their aim was economic welfare. Okay, simultaneously they were also looking towards a world order, because if you have to step from the third world to second world, you have to be active participant in the world politics. So they were trying to work towards, you know, this human rights thing. Okay, bringing economic equality among nations, all these things they were looking together. Okay, looking at together. So if they ask you, why do you think, you know, these third world nations did not, they signed the non-aligned movement? These are the pretty much reasons. It's common sense, it's basic common sense. We don't have our resources, why would we fight for you when we are not able to live our life? See, something very similar happened. I mean, I wouldn't say something very similar, but if you go back to Germany after World War One, Germany was facing crisis. Okay, such a heavy crisis that when it was paying the war debts. Okay, the war. What do we say? yeah, the war deaths actually, after 1918, it saw huge inflation, a heavy inflation was there in Germany, hyperinflation. Okay, 160 for a packet of bread, 200 marks. It was actually, marks was the currency of Germany, and then they were spending so much for a packet of bread. But coming of Hitler, okay, and the situation that Germany saw then, it wasn't, what do we say, actually very beneficial for Germany in the long run. Even coming of Hitler did not benefit Germany. So people actually were seeing that whatever is happening in Germany, even after fighting a war and being totally, what do we say, destroyed by the war, they're once again trying to step into this thing and they're actually affecting their people, which is what was happening. I wouldn't say, okay, Hitler got the power, Hitler had sophisticated weapons, he had a great technology, he practically conquered the world, at least European nations, by his technology. But what about the people who are living in Germany? They don't want to be conquered and they don't want to be, you need to have a perspective behind. If you're conquering regions, you need to have an administrative perspective behind. Where was it? So the population was suffering, and something similar did not want to be witnessed in the third world countries because they knew they had already suffered. So we don't want to suffer, we don't want our people to suffer. Okay? Okay, this is all about NAM and Panchsheel, not a lot. Remember, memorize the Panchsheel principles. NAM, Bandung Conference, President Sukarno, Indonesia, Belgrade Conference, okay, President Tito, President Nasser, okay, and Prime Minister Nehru. Remember these names, these are important. And yes, now let's come to a quick discussion of a few wars. Let's start with let's start with Sino-India War first, because we've already discussed about, okay. Let's start with Sino-India War 1962. Let me tell you a quick, what do we say, background, the situation. First of all, remember, Sino-India War, it happened in the year 1962. I get confused with years a lot, so I'm making it pretty clear for all of you. Sino-India War, year 1962. Okay, now try to understand the situation. I don't know if I have the map of India over here clearly to make it. So basically, you can see Tibet over here. This is Tibet. Right, Tibet. So, see, China's expansive policies, they had already taken over Taiwan. Okay, Taiwan was totally now in their control, however hard they resisted and however hard the world resisted. But Taiwan was in their control. And something similar happened with Tibet. So, India and Tibet, they had great relations because we had Buddhism. I did not, why am I in a habit of saying I told you? So I did not tell you, but I've discussed the same in the CUET lectures, that when the Arabs invaded India, so all these Buddhist monks from this area, some flew south and some jumped towards these regions. Okay? And jumping here and coming here. So, Buddhism had spread in all these areas, Nepal and Bhutan and Tibet. Okay, there was Buddhism spread in all those areas, and India and Tibet had great relations since ancient times because of this spread of Buddhism only. Okay, ever since the time of Kublai Khan, China, it said that Tibet is our part. Okay, so China wanted to take control of Tibet, but it actually did not, exercise any control until there was this Manchu king. He captured Lhasa. Lhasa was a region in Tibet, and he captured Lhasa during the time of sixth Dalai Lama. Okay, he captured Lhasa, and that's when situation worsened. Not tried to get worse, it worsened. Okay, so Manchu dynasty, which was ruling Tibet that time, it kept on becoming weak and weak. Okay, see, when China, let me repeat this thing. China claimed suzerainty over Tibet. okay? But only when Manchu dynasty was strong, China faced a threat that if Manchu dynasty becomes strong, it may happen that it might want to separate itself from China. Whereas Tibet did not consider itself to be a part of China, but China did consider. So things were going fine, and China did not actually, invade or do anything. Things were going fine, but then you saw the invasion of Lhasa region. Okay. After that, when Manchu dynasty started becoming weak, it started becoming weak and weaker and weaker. And that's when China said, okay, since the Manchu dynasty is becoming weaker, it's no more posing a threat to us. Okay, so let's leave it be and let's not try to take control of this thing, Tibet, once again. Now, when it came to British period, talking about the British time, the British government, it tried to establish trade relations with Tibet, but it failed. Okay. Later on, there was a colonel, I think, a colonel. I am not getting the name right now. Right. Colonel Young Husband. A very interesting name. So he succeeded in establishing these trade relations with with Tibet. Okay, after a lot of efforts from the side of this thing, Tibet, sorry, British power. He succeeded, in establishing the trade relations with Tibet. Tibet also, agreed to, go into this trade relation. In 1914, there was a convention at Shimla, okay? And in this convention, Tibet presented itself as independent. I'm talking about the year 1914, okay? Beginning of World War. So Tibet presented itself as an independent nation instead of, being a part of China. I hope all of you know that the border between India and China, or let's say Tibet, it's called the McMahon line. McMahon line. Border between India and Pakistan, Radcliffe line. Okay. So McMahon line was drawn between India and Tibet. Okay. And China practically agreed to this. Okay. And then you saw how good relations were developing between India and China with the signing of Panchsheel in 1954-55. Okay. China also said that, okay, we are not going to, let's say, what do we say? Be an aggressive party, and we are going to maintain peaceful relations. But then what happened is, also in 1955, even India said that, okay, let's not, all the rights that India was having, all the territorial rights that India was having over Tibet, India gave it up. Okay. But year 1956, year was 1956, when a revolt broke out in Tibet against against misrule rather. So it wasn't mentioned whether it's Chinese misrule, but no, it was mentioned it is Chinese misrule. Yeah, right. So a revolt broke out against Chinese misrule. Okay. This is the time when the revolt was, there, and China was trying to suppress the revolt. Dalai Lama flew from from Tibet to India. He sought refuge in India. Okay, year 1956. India was not actually, very eager to give refuge, but it could not send people away. So it did not do anything. Like India was practically an inactive party right now. It did not do anything. Okay. And Dalai Lama came here to, of course, take refuge in this country. Okay. Dalai Lama, and after Dalai Lama, we saw another religious, few other people, refugees, they sought asylum in India. Okay. Nehru could not send them back, of course. Okay. Neither could he do anything. But Nehru not sending them back was seen as, an unfriendly act by India towards China. I'm talking about year 1956-57. Nehru not sending these refugees back to Tibet was seen as an act of total unfriendliness between India and China. Okay. And China, of course, retaliated later on. How did China do it? China started its aggressive policy 56, 57 onwards. China forcibly occupied number one, Longju. Okay. Year was 1959. Let's move to the map again. So, northeastern province, this side, comes the region Longju. And China forcibly occupied this region plus Ladakh. Okay? So, China forcibly occupied this region. Year 1959. That is the first aggressive act of China breaking the Panchsheel principles and acting in an aggressive manner, which is totally against the Panchsheel policy of mutual non-aggression. Okay? And 3 years later, you will see that China suddenly launched an aggressive attack on northeastern province, frontier province, that's the Arunachal Pradesh area. Okay? And of course, the very beautifully disputed Aksai Chin area. Let me show it over here. This would be much better. This is the Aksai Chin area. Approximately 33,000 square kilometer of Aksai Chin. 33 or 38. I think 38, 33, just check it, okay? Approximately 33 or 38,000 square kilometer of area was taken by China illegally, okay? Year 1962. Aggression came from here and aggression came from here. Try to understand the backdrop now. What happened is China's Xinjiang province is here. Okay? And you have Tibet area over here. So China's, what do we say? A comfortable route from Tibet or from Xinjiang to Tibet would have been the Aksai Chin region. Okay? And China wanted to take control of this Aksai Chin region. So it had its design laid before only. Coming of Dalai Lama and capturing of, coming of Dalai Lama and, giving refuge to these refugees was just, what do we say, a background story. It wasn't something that, they actually were aiming for. Okay? So they wanted to aim for capturing of this region, and something same northeastern frontier province. It said that there's a majority of our population over there. It's our region historically that has been taken by India. So they wanted to capture these areas. Now India, which was looking towards China as a friendly nation, wasn't at all prepared for it. So people were wondering, what is the intelligence wing of India doing? Okay. Our Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, he was in Nepal that time, and he was then asked this question that China is now acting as an aggressor. What would you do? So see, before everything, Jawaharlal Nehru, he said he won't take anything action. But later on, when he was totally shocked by the aggressive actions of China, he said that, of course we are going to counterattack. And China was now more, angry at this particular point. And now they're going to counterattack, which means we're going to wage a full war on them. Krishna Menon, the Indian Defense Minister, he was in London. Somebody whom you would have expected to take stand right now, he was actually standing in London, having a good time in London. Okay? And being in London, Krishna Menon did not let Air Force and Navy move ahead. See, what Menon was afraid of was that if we allow our Air Force and Navy to move ahead and fight the war could take a proper big, phase. He just allowed his soldiers to move, and maybe he said that, if our soldiers are moving, things could calm down in a few days. Whereas our soldiers could not compete with them. Okay? It would have been the best option to put Air Force and Navy. We did not have so many weapons. We did not have so many guns and sophisticated weapons as Chinese army. They were preparing for the war. We were not. So we were just fighting. We were right now defensive. And we were just fighting a war which we did not expect. So it would have been best to even allow them to go. Okay? Because India's army and navy, India's Air Force and Navy, they were much more powerful than India's army at that time. But of course, Menon did not allow it to go. See, had India's navy been there, it could have easily blocked the Bay of Bengal region, the Strait of Malacca region. Okay, so China would have the only option to move through land. China would not have had the option of moving through sea and also, look over here. So if we had blocked this region, China would not have had the option of being an aggressor through this area. They would have only had option of coming through here and we could have easily stopped them. But right now, China was actually attacking us from all sides. So Menon's, far-sightedness was not at play over here. Okay, we were fighting wars at two sides, but we only had 200 to 250 arms and ammunition, which of course exhausted after a few, there are people who just find 200 bullets in let's in 5 minutes in the situation of war. And China, on the other hand, I said they were totally prepared. They had a huge artillery backup. Okay. We did not have proper clothing and equipments also. Okay. Nehru was always in defensive mode. And Chinese were smart enough to cut India's supply line also. In the northeastern frontier province in Ladakh, supply line of India was cut. You're not getting much, to eat. This is the best strategy. If you remember naval blockade in Cuba and the Berlin blockade, all these blockade strategies are the best strategy, so that, if you don't get your, supplies, you won't be able to sustain in the war for a long term. Okay. India, what India did was that in the northeastern province, frontier province area, that's, Arunachal Pradesh area, India did not build a road. India thought that if you build a road, China would be easily able to enter into India. So previously, only India did not build a road. This posed a problem for its own soldiers now. Here, 1960, of course, the Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai, he has suggested that if India gave up its claim over Aksai Chin, China would also drop its claim in Arunachal Pradesh. But Nehru rejected. Why should we give our claim on Aksai Chin? Aksai Chin is ours. Okay. Now India started following a forward policy when it started sending troops and patrols to disputed border areas. Okay. There were some of its troops which also went beyond the Indian borders. Okay. And this problem, this particular step actually deteriorated the relations between both, resulted into the loss for India in this battle. In the Sino-India War, India lost Aksai Chin, but negotiations in UN give it Arunachal Pradesh back. Okay. Krishna Menon, he resigned from his post thereafter, and he said that, he accepted his wrong decision. Okay. And though India lost the war, but it learnt a big lesson that Panchsheel, of course, is no more into play. And India also increased its support for Tibetan refugees and revolutionaries. Thereafter, India also realized that it's very important for us to even modernize our armed forces, construct or build roads. If you all have seen this thing, our north, let me erase it and show it to you. Our northeastern states are only are connected to India through a very, a very thin 38 square kilometer corridor, Siliguri corridor, the chicken's neck. Okay, and it's very easy losing it. So India's main focus should have been this area. Okay, the Siliguri corridor. See, its main focus should be this, which India was not focusing on then, and India learned its lessons thereafter. Okay, so it of course turned its focus towards the northeastern states. Okay, and it started, what do we say? Strengthening its borders. Okay, yep, focusing more on Navy, Army, Air Force, everything all together. Okay, coming to the 3 Indo-Pak wars. Now, we don't need to discuss about the first Indo-Pak war, I guess, because it's pretty clear that first Indo-Pak war was the 1947-48 war. 1947-48 war, 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 Just a second. So let's start with the Indo-Pak War. Now, in the year 1962, Pakistan saw that India had been defeated and humiliated terribly. Its territories had been lost. Okay. Okay, yeah. 65 later on, 48, 47, 48. Actually, the situation of 47, 48 tried to understand. Now, when uh, when Britishers went from India, like Mountbatten Plan came, so it was said that let the people decide who they want to side with in the war. Okay, I mean not in the war. Sorry. When the formation, the two nation theory came up, and formation of India and Pakistan was laid down, so it was given to the people that if you want to join India, you can join India. If you want to go to Pakistan, you can go to Pakistan. So there were a lot of states which joined Pakistan. There were a lot of states, majorly Muslim majority states, they joined Pakistan, and Hindu majority were in India. Question of three states came: Hyderabad, Junagadh, and this thing, Kashmir. Hyderabad people revolted, India took over. Vallabhbhai Patel's great strategy. Junagadh plebiscite was held, and Junagadh was taken over. Coming to Kashmir. Now, Kashmir situation was that Kashmir had Hindu majority people, sorry, Hindu king and Muslim majority. This was the situation in Kashmir. It has Hindu king and Muslim majority. Year 1947, the Hindu king, Raja Hari Singh, he refused to join any nation. He said that we don't want to join India, we don't want to join Pakistan right now. Give us a time of 1 year. So he signed this agreement with both India and Pakistan. He was given a time of 1 year. Okay. Pakistan was not to be calm. Year 1947, Pakistan started sending militants. Okay. In the name of normal people, they started sending militants to Kashmir. And these militants started, all those killings and attacks in Kashmir. So now Hari Singh, he was quite scared that they might be, forcefully captured. So Hari Singh came to the help of, asked help of Jawaharlal Nehru. Nehru said, no, we cannot help you like this. It's a situation of Pakistan and we cannot help you like this. You have to, come to us. If you have to be a part of India, if you want our help. And that's when he made Hari Singh sign Instrument of Accession. So when Kashmir signed the Instrument of Accession, now Nehru went and helped Kashmir. But in all this fight, these militants had captured a major area. A major area of Kashmir. Okay. So, all this thing was happening. Nehru, when he sent the Indian army over there, of course, Indian army was successful in pushing them out. But the situation, Nehru went to UN. And that is what worsened the situation. So Nehru, when he went to UN, UN said that both the armies should be on the standby. First of all, go back to your original positions where you were. Okay. And as a result of all this process, Pakistan got that entire area, which is practically Indian area. Pakistan got it by force just because of the unnecessary intervention of United Nations. But result of all this thing was that Kashmir became a part of India. It became a part of the Indian territory. Okay. All this said and done. Next important thing is the war of 19. So this was all about the war of 1947-48. Next important is Pak War 1965. So I told you that loss of India in Sino-India War of 1962, it gave some hopes to Pakistan. And Pakistan, like they were raising historical claims on this thing. on Kashmir, they were simultaneously raising historical claims on Run of Kutch also. Okay, so they suddenly invaded Run of Kutch. Okay, and started doing hostilities over there. They shot the helicopter of Gujarat CM Balwant Rai Mehta. Okay, um, Pakistan said that this area, Run of Kutch, it was captured by the King of Sindh in 1862. Okay, and in 1870, sorry, yeah, in 1875, it was reported that border between Kutch and Sindh, it actually went through Dharamshala. Okay, which is actually in Kutch. Okay, so they say that Run of Kutch historically belongs to us. Okay, but a report was published in 1906 and it denied all the claims of Pakistan. Okay, it said that King of Sindh, he never attacked the Kutch area, and Kutch is actually India's, it's Gujarat's. Okay, um, this dispute had also gone to International Court of Arbitration. Okay, and in that court, then Pakistan was awarded 350 square miles of Run of Kutch. They had demanded 35,000 square kilometers, but they were given only 350, 10% of it. So yeah, they were given only this much area in through the International Court of Arbitration. And since that time, Pakistani soldiers, they have been infiltrating into Kashmir. Okay, Kashmir issue was also, it was going on to be the cause of contention, a bone of contention. Okay, and you also saw the situation in Kutch. But in Kutch, when they attacked in 1965, Indian Army very beautifully defeated them. Since they did not achieve what they wanted to in Kutch, they again went to Kashmir. A 3 weeks war started in Kashmir. They started Operation Gibraltar. Operation Gibraltar was started to prove that the Kashmiris did not want to stay with India, rather they wanted to be with Pakistan. Now, of course, the United States of America had always been to the assistance of Pakistan. Nevertheless, Pakistan had Sabre jets, which were given to it by America, and Sabre jets were nothing but heat-seeking missiles. India did not have any such missile. America had also given Pakistan Patton tanks. Okay, and Army of India, it utilized its normal weapons to fight Pakistan then, and it came out to be successful. So Pakistan's Air Force stepped in then and it took over. Okay, what happened is that when this was happening, Pakistan bombed Srinagar Air Base also, and we decided that we need to fight them. So India used its NAT missiles to fight Pakistan. NAT missiles are not that powerful. They cannot fight the heat-seeking missiles. So they used a strategy that they, sent NAT missiles from here. Pakistan Sabre jets, they followed and they were trying to attack here. And a few NAT missiles had gone from here. Others they sent from top and attacked the Sabre jets. Okay, so basically, they were just fooled. Pakistan missiles were just fooled. Okay, and that's how NAT jets, they were used to capture them. Okay, Pakistan also realized that, oh, these Sabre jets are of no use. So they used the Patton tanks. How were the Patton tanks now fought with? Patton tanks were fought where a canal was opened. When Patton tanks stepped into the Kashmir area, a canal was opened, okay, to fill water in that area and hinder the movement of Pakistan, of these tanks. So all those tanks, they drowned over there. Okay. Our Indian Navy had Corvette missiles, but its range was really less. You had to be very close to the target to, use those missiles. Okay, so these missiles had to be brought to the Karachi port to attack Pakistan. And they reached Karachi port, they attacked Pakistan's spots. Okay, then you will see that from Karachi port, Pakistan's army ran towards Gwadar port. Even there we attacked them. Situation was all in our control. We learned from the 62 war. We did not, do the same mistake once again. And Indian army had already reached Lahore and hoisted the Indian flag in a school in Lahore. Okay. But of course, there was this Indian soldier, Veer Abdul Hamid, who fought valiantly, and yet he was killed. He was blown alive by the tank. Okay. So that was what happened. We lost a few things, but eventually gained after the war. So Lahore was captured by India. Year 1965, we captured Lahore. Give it us a few more days and we would have captured entire Pakistan. But stepped in Russia. Things went internationally and Russia stepped in, and Russia did not want anything, but it wanted compromise. So Tashkent Agreement was signed 11th Jan 1966. And that Tashkent Agreement, Lal Bahadur Shastri signed the Tashkent Agreement. After a few minutes of that, he passed away. So he died in that same agreement day, same war. We lost one prime minister in 1962 after 1962 war, Jawaharlal Nehru. We lost another after the 1965 war, which was Lal Bahadur Shastri. India saw one another war in 1971. 1971 is also called the Bangladesh Liberation War. Now, when Pakistan was divided, we had West Pakistan and we had East Pakistan, Bangladesh. Okay? So West Pakistan had become a dominating power because there was total Muslim majority over there. Here also we had Muslim majority, but they were Bengali ones. Okay? So now what happened, in East Pakistan, elections were held. And Mujibur Rahman, he won the elections. Okay? But West Pakistan did not want to give him power. Okay? Did not want to give Mujibur Rahman the power. So basically, they arrested Mujibur Rahman and they captured him in West Pakistan. Doing this, a lot of West Pakistani soldiers came and started assaulting the East Pakistani people, the Bengali people. Okay, as a result of which they started seeking asylum in regions of India, Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand. They all started seeking asylum in India. Okay, situation reached Indira Gandhi. Okay, and Indira Gandhi talked to Sam Manekshaw. Like, can we do anything about this? Can we, like, prevent Pakistan from doing what it is doing right now? So Colonel Sam Manekshaw, he said that do not please fight any war till November, because the monsoon months in India, you have marshy land in the Bengal side, the Sundarbans area and all those regions. So you get marshy land. Our Indian army won't be able to fight that war. Okay, so till November, calm down. And in November, we also saw a treaty, peace treaty was signed with Russia. Okay. All this was going on, and we were, of course, preparing for a war to be held. 3rd December, Pakistan suddenly attacked Srinagar, the Pathankot air base. Okay. Pakistani soldiers also came to know that Longewala had only 120 soldiers. Okay, Longewala in Gujarat has only 120 soldiers. Longewala had the duty of Kuldeep Singh. Okay, and he was very smart enough, So Kuldeep Singh, what he did was, these 120 soldiers smartly fought. How they fought, you don't need to know. They smartly fought thousands of British soldiers. Basically, how they did it was strategy, that they dug a lot of, first step, they dug these deep holes in the ground, and 120 soldiers were placed at a distance. Before that, it's a very interesting story, that before that, when the tanks were coming, we did not have so many, what do we say, these things, what do we call it? I'm not getting, mines. Yeah, right. Sorry, mines. So we did not have a lot of mines. So we tried to deceive them. And what we did was, we placed tiffin boxes over here. These soldiers thought that we dig them under the ground. These soldiers thought they were, mines. And so the soldiers, they jumped in and they started, pulling out those mines, but it resulted into nothing. So they kept on moving ahead. The original mines that were placed were a little behind that. And the minute they started moving ahead, these 3 mines, they blasted. Okay? Few soldiers lost here among those thousands. And then these 120 soldiers who were spread across. They started attacking from everywhere. So these Pakistani soldiers, they thought, oh, we got to know about only 120 soldiers. How come we are getting attacked from every side? So they thought, oh, they're attacking us from every side. They're not just 120, there are a lot of them. That is what they said, that we got to know about 120, but here the attack is from all the sides. General Kuldeep Singh had only one target in mind: control the situation till morning. Because in morning, hunter jets are going to come. Okay, so he had to control the situation till morning. And same thing happened. Situation was controlled. In morning, we had hunter jets entered Longewala and they defeated the Pakistani army then and there only. Then our Indian Navy, it reached Karachi port. Okay, it attacked the port. It moved to Gwadar port. It attacked there. We had, so Pakistani Navy came into play. Pakistan side, it sent their PNS Ghazi to fight our INS Vikrant. What happened is that INS Vikrant was actually there in Bay of Bengal region, and INS Vikrant was technically for the protection of the East Pakistan side, and PNS Ghazi was moving to attack this thing. So we had to strategically do something. We had our INS Rajput, but its engine had some problems, so INS Rajput was actually in Vishakhapatnam. Okay, and there INS Rajput was deployed. I had a photo. I think, the photo is not here. Never mind. So INS Rajput was deployed in Vishakhapatnam and its engine was being rectified over there. We could not let PNS Ghazi know because it's a submarine. So it's going to come from, we won't even come to know that where it is coming and when it attacks Vikrant. So what Indians did, Indian soldiers, they spread a news that INS Vikrant is actually in Vishakhapatnam. And all the soldiers are going to Vishakhapatnam. Okay. And the Pakistani spies in India, they spread the same news. And they went to Vishakhapatnam, PNS Ghazi. Our INS Rajput, whose engine was being rectified, was successful enough to defeat PNS Ghazi then and there itself. Okay. And Vikrant was there for the protection of East Bengal. Okay. See, it had been taken from UK, where it was called HMS Hercules. Okay. This is INS Rajput. This is PNS Ghazi, the submarine. Mukti Vahini was actually a Bangladeshi, East Bengali liberation organization, and they were already attacking Pakistan soldiers. INS Vikrant, it destroyed Chittagong port. After PNS Ghazi was destroyed, Pakistan called for US help. Now, US was very happy to help because India had signed this peace treaty with Russia. Even though they said they will not sign any treaty, they will not align, they signed a treaty. So America was very happy. America sent its 7th fleet. India reached Russia. Along with America, we had Britain's fleet also coming here. But then USSR intervened and it sent its 50th fleet. And amidst the Cold War situation, people were already afraid of a new war breaking out. So basically after that, both the sides, they backed off. Okay. Then Pakistan went to UN, United Nations. Okay. It raised a proposal against India, but of course Russia vetoed the proposal. Okay. Finally, in East Pakistan, right? General Nirmajit Singh Arora, he airdropped, he spread the news that we are airdropping soldiers on Dhaka. They weren't actually soldiers. They were, these human dolls which were being dropped there. And people were very scared. Oh, they are dropping soldiers over there. So they got scared and they started running here and there. Okay, Pakistani soldiers started hiding. Okay. Then the next step India did was Indian Air Force attacked the governor house in Bangladesh. Governor resigned. He flew away. After him going, things were in control of India. And Lieutenant Niazi, who was in Dhaka, given charge of Dhaka or of Bangladesh, he finally resigned. This was one such war where 93,000 soldiers resigned. Sorry, not resigned, surrendered. They surrendered. Okay. And he was given only half an hour to surrender. Either surrender or the whole Pakistan is gone. So he did surrender, and yeah, that's what ended the war for us. So basically this was all about the 3 wars for you. Okay, situation, why did the wars happen? Okay, what was the result? India did learn from Sino-India war, learned its lesson really well. You saw that situation was in control, especially beautifully in control of India, be it the 1965 war or 1971 war. We were in total control of the situation, and we could have taken Lahore, and let alone the entire Pakistan could have been in our control had, the UN not intervened, or the Cold War situation not going on. But yeah, that was pretty much it about this chapter in your curriculum, India's foreign policy. Now, see, I have given you a detailed view of the war so that understanding of the situation of war becomes clear for you. You don't need to write all these names over there. I'm making it clear right now. You don't need to write all these names, but so that you understand the entire situation and are able to link points, I gave you a detailed view of this thing. Okay? Pick the points you have to write in your exam, which is very short. Okay? uh, Write about what did India learn from these wars, especially the Sino-India War, the consequences of Sino-India War, because the consequences of these two wars. First one, you saw that, of course, Lal Bahadur Shastri passed away, and this one you saw that things were already in our control. Okay, so Sino-India War, its learnings become important for you. All right, thank you so much. Any questions? Do reach out to us.